Hey guys, I'm the Dragon's Beard and I'm back with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and today I've got another Clan Boss team for you, but before we start I do have to give a huge sincere shout out to Scratch, who invited me onto his channel to talk about one of the new Clan Boss teams featuring Demytha. We're actually going to be looking at a different Clan Boss team with her in it today, but I didn't have access to the test server and he did. He kind of invited me on the channel, made me feel super welcome. Uh, we worked out a time where it was going to work for both of us because it was super early in the morning for me. And I got to give a lot of credit to him. If you came over to the channel from that collaboration, I wanted to say thank you, and I hope that some of the content that I'm going to put together for you here in the next couple weeks is something that you're going to enjoy, so you'll stick around. One other thing before we start is there's about 95% of you who are watching the videos that aren't subscribed to the channel yet. And it's the easiest thing you can do to help the channel grow. Plus, Raid requires at least 1,000 subscribers in order to be able to get into their content creator program at Tier 1. So the faster I can start climbing the ranks, I can start doing gem giveaways for y'all and then get onto the test server, which is ultimately the goal that I have for the channel. So please, if you haven't done this yet, take the time to subscribe. It's free, and I have a lot of content for you in the next month. So in the last video, I started talking about one of the teams that's going to feature Demytha, the new Void Dwarf that came in the Sigmund Fusion. So I've got her unlocked, I've got her fully maxed, booked with masteries. I broke my rule, I went ahead and spent gems on masteries, which I never do, I always run through Minotaur, but I wanted to get this out to you fast. Just like I talked about in the last video, she has a really amazing kit. She's got a buff extension that also can be used as a sort of cleanse because it reduces one-turn debuffs. And then she's also got kind of the biggest part of her kit, which is a block damage that is on a 3-turn cooldown. So previously we've had Tower and Warcaster who have been on 4-turn cooldowns, but she is the shortest at a 3-turn for the entire team. And this is going to be what we use in order to keep this going and in sync to keep the whole team unkillable throughout the fight. And we are, just like I touched on in the last video, we're going to combine her with Maneater and use his unkillable and block debuffs to save us from the second AoE and also the stun, and then she's going to come in and she's going to block the first AoE. So she's able to do that at a 1-to-1 ratio because she's got that 3-turn cooldown. We have a fast Maneater that's going to be in here. Let me make sure I show you the right one. So he needs to run at a 5-3 ratio so that the Ancient Blood ability stays in sync with the Clan Boss cycle. So I've got him running super speedy. He is at 286. He's the fastest champion. He's really the only one that's running over 240. And that's just necessary to run at that 5-3 ratio. I wasn't able to pack a ton of damage stats onto him just because the speeds were that were necessary, but we do have him crit capped. Accuracy doesn't matter on him, and just wanted to pack as much attack and crit damage as I could while also maintaining 100% crit at that speed. For Demytha herself, because she's at that 1-to-1 ratio, she's a lot slower. So she runs at 171, so the speed ranges on this are kind of tight. The video that I was talking about in the last go-around, I was kind of theorizing how this was going to work, and I was trying to run all of the champions except for Maneater at a 1-to-1 ratio. And what Facemelter, one of the mods over at the Deadwood Jedi Discord, had come up with is a way that you could take one of the DPS and run them at a 4-3 ratio. He also found speeds that were able to work on both Ultra Nightmare and Nightmare, which is the problem that I had when I was trying to come up with this team myself. So my team was kind of loosely based off of the Druckle Unkillable, but his was kind of based off of the War Tower combination that runs at a 5-4-3-3-3 ratio. So Demytha is one of the slowest out of the 3 slow champs. She's running at 171. She's going to go just ahead of the Clan Boss on Nightmare and just behind the Clan Boss on Ultra Nightmare, and she's able to stay in sync for that reason. And the other 3 champions that I brought in, you can really run any DPS you want in the team that are not going to have any ways of varying the turn meter or increasing speed or anything like that. So I opted for some champions that are pretty easy to attain, and the first of that would be Geomancer. So he is, out of the DPS options, running at 165. I'll show the ranges and stuff when we hop over in the calculator. I packed as much attack as I could onto him. His attack isn't super big of a deal because most of his damage is coming from the passive and his HP burn, but still, he does do quite a big hit with his A2, so I put some attack on him. He's crit capped, as much crit damage as I could at that low speed, and then we do need accuracy on Geomancer just because of the HP burn. That's super important for his passive in order to be able to do its damage. I also went with, instead of Draco, because everybody sees Draco and they just automatically assume that that's a whale comp, so I went with Fane. I just kind of like the budget Draco. So she is a little over 6,000 attack. With the speed being as low as it is, I was able to get her into attack boots. Almost crit capped, 219 crit damage, and then she does need accuracy for the decreased defense and for the weaken and for the poison. And then the last champion I brought in here was Kreela, and I realized as I was putting it together, I probably could have put less crit rate into everybody's builds because with Demytha's extension, Kreela is able to keep up the increased attack and increased crit rate buffs the entire fight for the most part. The only time it drops is one turn of Maneater because he runs at that 5-3 ratio. So, this is, I wasn't trying to push for a 1-key with this team. This is kind of like in between a budget Maneater and like a double Maneater or a Bat Eater team, so it's not like designed to be the top of the top, but if you've been one of the people that's waiting on that second Maneater for months upon months, this team can be great because instead of needing that second Maneater, Demytha comes in and she takes care of that first AoE for you. So Kreela is the champion I chose to run at a 4-3 ratio just so that her increased attack and stuff stayed in sync the entire fight. She is at 227 speed. I've got her just under 5,000 attack, crit capped with 216 crit damage. I don't care about her accuracy because she's not going to be able to land anything against the clan boss anyway. So those are the champions. The speeds are very tight, so like sometimes even variations that you have and whether you're wearing speed sets or perception sets can cause it to throw off. The speed ranges have a lot of wiggle room, but there's only a select few that will work both on Ultra Nightmare and Nightmare. So I'm going to run the team. It is full auto. So the first team here, I'm going to just show you the way that you configure the AI. And then I've also ran this against Force, so I'll show you that damage at the end as well. So to make it full auto, we need the delays to happen at certain times. So what we're doing here is that we've set the Unkillable to be priority for Maneater, which is what he's going to do anyway, but we've caused him to open with the A2 just because we need to delay this by one turn. For Demytha, kind of the same deal. She needs a one-turn delay on her A2, so we open with A1, then we set that to be the priority, and then we set the A3 to be second priority. And what will happen is that she'll use the skills in this exact order, A1, A2, A3, which is what we want for the specific team. So Geomancer doesn't really matter. I didn't touch his AI at all because he's going to do what he needs to. Fane doesn't really matter as well. And then for Kreela, it's not really super important what her delays are, but the reason why I chose these is because it'll keep her A3 going up, which is that buff right before Demytha's extension every single time. So that's kind of the reason why I set it to do A2 first and then A3. And after that, it stays in sync. So I am going to kick it off here and just show you what it looks like for the setup because, again, it's all full auto. And you'll see what happens as far as the syncing, and then I'll explain this in detail in the calculator afterwards. So we're going to have Maneater and Kreela go faster than the clan boss, and then he'll attack us. And we don't need block damage or anything for that first one anyway. And then what will happen here is that Maneater is going to throw up that Unkillable, which is going to block the Affinity debuff. Then the block debuffs is going to get extended, so nobody gets stunned. And then the Unkillable, by the time this falls into sync on the second cycle, will be up for every AoE 2 and every stun. And then for Demytha, her block damage is going to go up for AoE 1, and there's nothing really needed for block debuffs there. So I'm going to let this run through. It's not going to be a one-key team like I mentioned. We've got Kreela here with positive affinity, Fane neutral, and then it doesn't really matter whether Geomancer is weak affinity because most of his damage is coming from the HP burn. He will do less than what he does if he weak hits on that HP burn, but not a big deal. This is going to run for the rest of the fight, full auto as I mentioned, and we're aiming for just around 1 million damage per turn. So I will come back towards the end and we will see how close it got to that. Okay, so here we are at the end, 58 million, just under 59. So very comfortable 2-key. You know, with somebody like Draco and Vizier in here, you maybe could push this to a 1-key, especially if you built the champions at like 70% crit rate instead of 100 using Kreela. But again, that's not what I was going for with this specific team. With Maneater, he's just under 10 million in terms of damage. Demytha, the thing with her is that she is going to do the least amount of damage in most of your teams. She only has one ability that's an attack, so she's not going to have as much War Master. She doesn't have poisons. She's not really worth putting in a toxic set just because she's only got that one hitting ability. But Geomancer, 19 million almost. In the Force team, he did more, which I'll show you after this. And then Fane, poisons, and then Kreela, mostly there to give the support buffs for the rest of the team, but she does pretty good damage herself. Here's the Force team, so same roughly from Maneater and Demytha, but then you've got Geomancer doing more, and then you've got Kreela doing less in that team. So, it's kind of in that same 58, 59 range. I am going to hop over in the calculator, show you the turn order, and then kind of show you the reason why the speeds are tight for both Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare. So like if I was to run the exact same speeds that I just showed you on Nightmare, it would fall out of sync. But I'm going to show you the speeds that Facemelter has, which work on both. Okay, so I've got the speeds plugged in for my team for Ultra Nightmare here in the calculator. And what I was talking about with the speed ranges being tight is that, for example, Maneater, I've got him at 286. If I try to raise that or lower it, then it immediately falls out. And even with speed sets and perception sets, then that decimal variation for the true speed can cause that same problem. So when you follow the link that I'm going to put in the description to get these speeds, make sure that with your specific gear that you're going to hit right at 286 or wherever in the range is going to land you this turn order. So for Godseeker 171, Kreela, mine's at 227, Fane 179, and then Geomancer 166. What I've done for Demytha to simulate her in the calculator is she's in here as Godseeker and Neri since she's not in the calc yet. And then I've taken her A3, reduced it to a 3-turn cooldown, and then just the way that I set it up in the custom AI in the game, I have prioritized her A2. We just want to make her do that same turn order the entire way through, A1, A2, A3, in order to match these delays that the calculator shows. So here's what we're looking for, starting with turn 6. Godseeker, or in this case Demytha, should be the champion that goes last right before AoE 1. Her A3 is that block damage ability, and then that's going to protect you for the whole fight. And then for Maneater, what you're looking for on Ultra Nightmare is that he is going last before AoE 2, and then the other important part is that there's no double turns over here on the last turn of the clan boss cycle, because that Unkillable and that block debuffs needs to stay up for the stun. So that's going to be the way that it works on Ultra Nightmare kind of through the rest of the fight, is this pattern of 7 turns, 6 turns, 5 turns. If we toggle it over to Nightmare, what you're going to see is it works a little bit differently, and this is the reason why, if you've seen the post in the Discord, Facemelter has it listed as 4-3 champ can't take the stun. So starting down here with turn 9 when it falls in sync, Godseeker is going to put up the block damage, and then Maneater does the Unkillable and block debuffs on, let's say, turn 10. But then Kreela is going to go twice. She's going to go here in the middle turn, and she's going to go again on the end turn. And this is going to cause her to lose the Unkillable and the block debuffs right here. As you can see, it starts to fade. So because that's happening, what you're going to want is to make sure that there's some way that she is not going to get targeted for the stun. So you want to give her a way that she's regenerating health, or the steadfast mastery and the support tree to keep her from being preferred as a stun target. Potentially you could use like a blood shield artifact in order to give her an extra buff that makes her not want to be targeted by the clan boss, or you're going to want to use somebody that is a positive affinity against the clan boss, so that the clan boss is not going to want to hit that target. So just keep that in mind. It's a little tricky on Nightmare. Some of the other teams that I'm going to show are not going to have that problem, but for this specific one, then that is a side effect of running the same speeds for Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare. If we were to do gear swaps, there's a set of speeds on Nightmare that does not have this problem. It runs the exact same as it did on Ultra Nightmare, but gear swaps are super annoying when it comes to these kind of teams, so I did not show that in this kind of video. I also noticed that I did not go over the masteries. for the champions. So let me do that right now. Okay, so real quick involving masteries, like this is the default unkillable masteries for a Maneater team, so you'd want to go straight down to the War Master in the offense tree, and then you'd want to take Grim Resolve because of how much of the fight you're spent below 50% HP. And then in the defense tree, you really want to just get Retribution in order to get that counterattack chance. So this is the mastery set that I would run on the entire team if I was building them fresh or if I was spinning the gems to go through. I have support tree on Kreela though, just because of the buff targeting. So none of the stuff that's going on over here is really super important as far as accuracy, just because it does nothing against the clan boss, but we just gave her a little bit extra stats from Laura Steele. The reason why we don't want to do defense tree is that if you are running her on Nightmare and she gets an extra A1 from that counterattack, then that shield could cause the stun targeting to kind of come out of whack. That's the only reason why this specific team you'd kind of want to stay away from the defense tree. And then for Demytha, I would run her in defense tree as well. I just have this support tree set up for another comp that I'm going to be putting together where I needed Laura Steele for extra speed, and then where I needed Sniper and Master Hexer where she's in a toxic set. So, this is not the preferred mastery set for this specific team. So if you saw that for her, like, I wanted you to know why I did not have the defense tree. It's not the better way to go. So the only other thing involving masteries that I would call attention to is that this is an old set of Geomancer masteries because his passive used to run off of Giant Slayer. Now that component is built into the passive itself, so it's actually more damage for him to run War Master. I have not gone through the process of changing him over yet, but if I was building this fresh, he would have War Master instead of Giant Slayer for that reason. So that is all for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. I've got more of these comps coming down the pipeline. I hope you look forward to seeing them. And until then, I've been the Dragonsbeard. Thanks for watching.